Good morning, viewer. Welcome to our first TV. Here is the breaking news. Yes, a Middle East NATO. Why Iran is closely watching Biden's regional trip. United States President Joe Biden is on a landmark trip to the Middle East. One country he won't be visiting, however, is dominating the agenda, Iran. Biden's itinerary includes just two countries, Israel and Saudi Arabia. Those are Tehran's biggest regional foes and they are coming closer together than ever before. The visit comes just weeks after Israel said that it was working with regional partners on an air defense alliance that is led by the US. Israel's defense minister Benji Gantz told the Knesset, Israel's parliament, that he hopes the program will take another step forward during Biden's trip to the region. Saudi Arabia has been pressuring the US for security guarantees that would contain Iran should nuclear talks fail. The last round of talks in Doha 2 weeks ago resulted in a standstill, with the US saying Iran added unrelated demands to the table. Early on Friday, just hours before Biden was due to touch down in the kingdom, Saudi Arabia moved one step closer to normalizing relations with Iran. Arabia Israel by opening its airspace to all airlines. Israeli carriers were previously barred from entering Saudi airspace on most flights. Last month, US lawmakers introduced legislation to create an integrated air defense system to increase cooperation between Israel and its Arab neighbors, including the countries whose leaders Biden will meet in Saudi Arabia this week. The defense system is aimed to protect those states from Iran. Jordan's King Abdullah, who Biden will meet in Saudi Arabia, said this month he favors joining a Middle East NATO with like-minded countries without specifying which. Iran sees an Arab-Israeli military plan as a provocative move and a threat against its national security. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Nasir Kanani was cited saying on Saturday by state news agency IRNA, he accused the US of spreading Iran phobia among regional countries, according to IRNA. The United Arab Emirates, which has been engaging in direct talks with Tehran, said on Friday that it has no interest in joining an anti-Iran alliance. We are open to cooperation, but not cooperation targeted at any other country in the region. And I specifically mentioned Iran. Anwar Gargas, advisor to the United Arab Emirates president, told to the reporter that in the process of sending an ambassador to Tehran, he added, some analysts say that if Iran finds itself being ganged up on by its neighbors, it may retaliate. An Arab-Israeli military alliance is a terrible idea, said Trita Parsi, Vice President of the Quincy Institute in Washington, D.C., because it cements existing divisions in the region and reduces the likelihood of diplomatic breakthroughs. Such groupings are aimed at organizing the region against a certain state instead of achieving true peace, Parsi told to the reporter. Previous American attempts at isolating Iran at the behest of Israel led Tehran to sabotage the Palestinian-Israeli peace processes to undermine Washington's efforts, he said. If Biden's anti-Iran alliance truly talks told, it may prompt Iran to go back to its policy of the 1990s when it actively pushed its allies to destabilize parts of the region, he added. On Thursday, Biden and Israel Prime Minister Yair Lapid signed a new joint declaration that included a commitment to never allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon and to address Iran's destabilizing activities. There is a potential that Biden's visit could create further tensions, Mohammad Marandi, a professor at the University of Tehran, told to the reporter. The protest and the prospects has not escaped Gulf Arab states who are worried about getting caught in the line of fire between Iran and the US. Garges told to the reporter that there is a need to de-escalate with Iran. We have to find solution and we have also to use economic cooperation in various areas, he said. Abdullah, political science professor in the UAE, told to the reporter that forming a potential military alliance as regional NATO is very provocative and I don't think it acceptable to whoever is asked to join. While there is regional consensus, that Iran is now more destabilizing than ever. Israel and the Gulf Arab states differ on how to approach the problem, he told to the reporter. The mood in Abu Dhabi and Riyadh is to talk to Iran rather than provoke Iran. He said this is where the Gulf, especially Saudi Arabia and UAE, differ with Israel. The claim by the US this week that Iran may be providing drones to Russia may be used by the Biden administration to strengthen the case for a Middle East defense pact against Iran, said Anis Baseri, senior research fellow at the London-based Royal United Services Institute. The timing of this information is interesting, she told to the reporter on Tuesday. We know that the US, together with Israel, is trying to shape this defense pact, and I think a lot of focus of this pact is the capability that the countries have when it comes to drones. Whether here is interest in the GCC Gulf cooperation, she said. There is plenty of Israeli propaganda that goes into marketing and promoting such a deal, said Abdullah. Logistically, it is not very easy to do. Behind the report for Sak TV.